Welcome to the Oasis, my name is Mike, and today is finally the day that I can give you my full review on the PSVR 2. Having had early access to the headset thanks to PlayStation, I've been playing with it every day over the past week, and I feel like I've got enough time in the headset now to give you all the details on the good and the bad about this headset. I will preface this review though by saying playing games on this thing has given me the most joy and excitement for VR in a long time, and I'm just so happy that we're finally getting back to what matters in VR, and that's playing some awesome and incredibly immersive games. I hope you find this review useful, and without further ado, let's dive in. Now, I won't bore you with the unboxing as I've covered that on the channel already, so I'll continue where I left off, which is with the setup. As you can see here, we've come a long way from the original PSVR, which had chunky cables, connections near your ankles, breakout boxes, and cameras, all of which have been reduced to a single USB-C cable, which just simply plugs into the front of the PS5. The cable connected to the PSVR 2 is 4.5 meters in length, and I found that during my testing you can extend it to an additional 1 meter without any problems. But any cable length beyond 1 meter would either cause tracking issues or simply wouldn't work in my testing. I've added a link to the extension cable I've been using in the description down below if you're interested. Now, the first time you connect the PSVR 2 to the PS5 console, it automatically recognizes it and runs through the setup process step by step, which is incredibly easy to follow, even if this is your very first VR headset. When you put the PSVR 2 on for the very first time, it cleverly uses the built-in eye tracking to work out the position of your eyes, and it guides you to adjust the dial at the top so your eyes are centered exactly in the middle of the lenses. While I think this is fantastic for newcomers, as someone who knows my exact IPD measurement from years of using VR headsets, I would have also liked to have seen the exact IPD number displayed in this menu. Also, one other slight nitpick here is that once the process is complete, if you happen to move the dial again, it doesn't automatically return you to this screen, so you could accidentally knock it out of calibration without knowing, and this would cause unwanted eye strain when playing VR games. Maybe this is something Sony could consider patching in a future update. In the next step of the setup, the headset automatically enables the pass-through mode, so you can pick up your Sense controllers. I will say now that I love these controllers, but they're almost impossible to put on correctly without the pass-through mode enabled. But thankfully, you can do this just with the touch of a button on the underside of the headset at any time to enable it. While the pass-through mode is in grainy black and white, it is much sharper than the Quest 2's black and white pass-through mode. Next up is the eye tracking calibration, where you simply follow a dot around the display with your eyes. Once complete, it's so cool to see your eyes moving around in real time, and it even shows you when you blink. Eye tracking in VR does feel like having some kind of superpower, and some devs have cleverly used this feature in some of their games already, which I'll touch on a little bit later on in the video. The next step in the process is to move your head around and scan your play area, so the headset can warn you if you get too close to objects whilst playing. It looks so cool with these blue geometric shapes and its radar-like pulses working its way through your room. Finally, you then just trace the boundaries of your play space and you're all done. Since this initial setup, I've been pleasantly surprised that the system has remembered the layout of my room each time I've turned the headset on, and I've not had to go through the process again yet. My only gripe with this setup process is that when it ends, it boots you to the PlayStation Home, which is just a flat floating main menu screen. This would have been the perfect opportunity for PlayStation to introduce you to some simple VR gameplay mechanics. And to Meta's credit, they did an excellent job with this with the Quest 2 by putting the user straight into a short demo experience. Again, maybe this is something Sony could consider adding in the future, but overall, 2 thumbs up for the setup process. So now I want to get into a bit more technical detail and talk about the display and lenses. The PSVR 2 features 2 OLED HDR panels, offering a resolution of 2000 by 2040 pixels per eye. This is a vast improvement over the original PSVR and a small increase over most current-gen consumer VR headsets. Now, due to the OLED HDR panels, you get lovely, rich, vibrant colors. And this is highlighted in Horizon Call of the Mountain, which I had the pleasure of playing early. The scale of everything is breathtaking, the vistas look absolutely stunning, the world pops with color, and honestly, it's one of the best looking VR games I've ever played. In contrast, the OLED panels also provide deep black levels, which is highlighted in darker games like The Walking Dead Saints and Sinners Retribution, for example. When the scene goes dark, it really is pitch black in the headset, which you just don't get in headsets using LCD panels, as they tend to look a little bit washed out and grey in comparison. However, there is a trade-off here. The pixel arrangement in OLED panels aren't quite as tight as LCDs, which means you do get some screen door effect with the PSVR 2. It's by no means a deal breaker, more of a necessary trade-off. It is there if you're looking for it, but it's certainly not enough to cause a distraction. The field of view of the headset is around 110 degrees, which is perfectly fine, and while I felt the horizontal field of view was similar to my modded Quest 2, the vertical field of view felt a bit larger, but this will vary from user to user depending on how close you move the lenses towards your eyes. The PSVR 2 panel refresh rate is 90Hz or up to 120Hz. 120Hz is pretty cool, but it also serves as a bit of a problem. You see, it sometimes achieves this refresh rate by running the display at 60Hz and using reprojection to essentially double the frame rate. This means in games like Horizon, when you use smooth turning, you'll see a ghosted-like image in the movement, which is undesirable. I'm normally a smooth turner in VR games, but I actually reverted to snap turning in Horizon due to this issue. Again, it's not a deal breaker, but it's simply a trade-off that PSVR 2 users will have to accept. And finally, I want to talk about the lenses. The PSVR 2 uses Fresnel lenses instead of what is becoming the new industry favourite in pancake lenses. This means that due to the concentric rings in the Fresnel lenses, you do get a bit of glare in contrasting scenes. Another slight issue with the PSVR 2 lenses is that it does have a pretty small sweet spot where the clarity is at its best, meaning that it will take a bit of up and down adjustment to get it just right when you first put it on, but thankfully due to the ergonomics of the head strap, the headset doesn't tend to move around much after you've got it in place, which is welcome. Now, it might sound like there's a few negatives here, but I'm really looking at this from an experienced VR user's perspective. New users will likely not even notice some of the things I'm talking about here, and to be honest, once you're fully immersed in an amazing game like Horizon or Switchback VR, you quickly forget about all these issues and you just enjoy the awesome VR experience. Moving on to a more positive note, the built-in audio solution with the earbuds actually surprised me. I'm not normally a fan of earbuds, but the convenience of having them attached to the headset was really nice, and the audio quality produced by the PS5's Tempest 3D audio sounded fantastic in everything that I played. There are other audio solutions available, like the official Pulse headphones and the SteelSeries 7P headphones that both work great with the PSVR 2 in my testing if you really dislike the earbuds. I'll add links to them in the description down below, but I'll cover them in more detail in a future video. One fun experiment I want to mention before I forget is that I did try connecting the PSVR 2 to my PC to see if anything would happen. It did trigger a little notification window, but it wasn't recognized by the PC or Steam as a VR headset, and even the headset itself wouldn't turn on, so I would say PC VR support is going to be highly unlikely unless someone really smart in the modding community is able to figure this one out. Now let's talk about the new Sense controllers. Straight away, they're a huge improvement over the original PSVR's antique Move controllers, and even an upgrade in some ways over all current-gen VR controllers. This is due to two main reasons: the adaptive triggers and the advanced haptics. I have to say, it wasn't until I played Switchback VR that I really noticed the precision of the haptics. When turning the controllers whilst holding the guns, it almost felt like something was rolling around inside the controller. And the only way I can really describe this feeling was that it was similar to the sensation of the HD rumble in the Nintendo Switch Joy-Cons. But it is really the adaptive triggers that steals the show for me. Having each gun in-game feel completely different to fire, with varying levels of tension provided on the triggers, is something that I want to see in all future VR controllers from here on out. Controller tracking was solid for the most part, but as these controllers are tracked by the headset itself, once they go outside of the tracking range directly in front of the headset, they do lose tracking momentarily and get stuck in place until they're back in line of sight of the cameras. I had this happen a handful of times when using the bow in Horizon during my 8-hour playthrough from start to finish, but for the most part they performed just fine. As I mentioned in my unboxing video, the Sense controllers feature capacitive touch sensors, which offer hand presence in VR even when your fingers are just resting on the buttons without actually pushing them. This feature can be found in the face buttons, the thumbsticks, the grip buttons, and the triggers, which all adds to better hand presence in VR games. One gripe is that the battery in these controllers tends to last between 4 to 5 hours of use before needing to be recharged. This is a stark contrast to the Quest 2's controller battery life, which uses a single AA battery which seems to last for weeks on end. Charging the Sense controllers is also a bit of a pain. As I mentioned in my unboxing video, you only get one USB-C charging cable included in the box. A splitter cable would have been nice, but it seems the official charging dock is definitely the way to go. Although I don't have one here yet, I did personally pre-order one, and it seems like an essential accessory in my opinion. Overall though, the controllers do feel really nice in the hands, and it's great to see that we're finally getting controller parity across systems, which is going to make porting games across multiple VR platforms much easier for developers in the future. Another really cool feature with the PSVR 2 that's not really been widely reported on is that it can actually be used as a TV replacement in cinematic mode. Now this allows you to watch video content or play any flat game from your game library in 1080p HDR on a huge virtual cinema screen in the headset. While you do need a TV for the PSVR 2's initial setup, once that's done you could effectively use the console with just the headset attached as a TV replacement, which is pretty cool. And this brings me nicely onto comfort and ergonomics. Personally, I found the PSVR 2 to be comfortable to wear for hours at a time. I didn't have any issues with headaches like I did with the Quest Pro, despite it being a very similar head strap design, and I put this down to the PSVR 2 being a lot lighter. One bone of contention amongst the VR community with the PSVR 2 is the cable, but I have to say, throughout all my time with it, it didn't really bother me at all. One thing to add here is that during a recent teardown video, Sony showed that the PlayStation cable could potentially be replaced if damaged. However, it might entail replacing the whole rear strap section, so make sure you keep your pets and kids away from this cable if possible. Sony also confirmed during this teardown video that the headset features an internal fan to keep the unit cool around the face to prevent fogging of the lenses, which I have to say worked great, and I didn't notice any fan noise whatsoever. The silicone rubber material used in the padding at the front and the back of the head strap is soft and comfortable, and it seems to work perfectly with my bold little head. And what I like about it is that once it's locked into place, the headset doesn't seem to move around, so you're not constantly having to readjust the fit. Of course, behind this front padding sits a single rumble motor for the headset's haptics, which, like I mentioned before, is often used to highlight key moments in games, and it does a great job of making you feel more connected to the VR experience. My only concern around comfort is that due to my IPD being around 61mm and the lenses being quite chunky due to the eye tracking modules, the lenses tend to rest slightly on the sides of my nose. Now I can relieve this slight pressure by pushing the eye relief out a little bit, but that would mean that I would sacrifice some field of view, which in all my testing I just didn't want to do. It's something I'm still trying to solve, but it's certainly not stopping me from enjoying the headset for long periods of time. The gasket surrounding the lenses is really nice. It's very soft, flexible material that contours to your face without applying any pressure, and it does an excellent job of eliminating any external light leaking into the headset. Another thing to mention here is that during all of my testing, I wore glasses throughout without any issues whatsoever. I would prefer to invest in some prescription lens inserts in the future, however, I'm just not sure if that's going to be possible due to the eye tracking modules surrounding the lenses. While on the subject of eye tracking, it's a standout feature of the PSVR 2, which just isn't common in current-gen consumer VR headsets. Some of the best use cases of eye tracking that I've tried so far are like being able to use your eyes to navigate the menus in Horizon. They also actually use eye tracking to give you an aim assist in-game, which is turned on by default. I did wonder why all of a sudden I had Hawkeye-like aiming abilities, but it was just the eye tracking giving me a helping hand. And this is what I meant earlier when I said that the eye tracking sometimes feels like it gives you superpowers. And finally, probably my favorite use of eye tracking so far is a scene that I played in Switchback VR when they tell you not to blink. Every time you blink, these creepy mannequins move around, making it much harder to keep your eyes open. It's absolutely horrific, but so awesome at the same time. This is so cool, and it's just the beginning, and I can't wait to see what more developers do with this next level tech in the future. And whilst on the subject of eye tracking, one feature that's really difficult to cover in this review is the dynamic foveated rendering. As it's designed to work without you even noticing it's working, it's almost impossible for me to tell that it's enabled in the games that I've been playing, and PlayStation haven't shared what games at launch are using this feature to increase game performance. So to round up this review, the big question is the PSVR 2 worth the hype, and would I recommend buying one? Absolutely. Despite some flaws, the PSVR 2 is a very capable VR headset that takes full advantage of the power of the PS5 to provide a level of VR quality and detail that's previously only been reserved for high-end gaming PCs. And in some instances, the PSVR 2 may even surpass this quality due to the advantage of dynamic foveated rendering and games being highly optimized specifically for the PS5 hardware. Horizon Call of the Mountain is a great example of this, and it's without doubt one of the best looking VR games I've ever played, and it stands proudly alongside Half-Life Alyx as some of the best content VR has to offer right now. And while the hardware is good, it's these games that excite me the most. As we all know, content is king, and PlayStation are coming out the gate strong with their launch lineup with Horizon, Resident Evil Village, and Gran Turismo 7, alongside some wonderful indie titles. If PlayStation can keep up the momentum with quality releases throughout the year, alongside some fun indie titles, I have no doubt PSVR 2 will be the headset of choice for gamers looking for the best quality VR content available. So that is my PSVR 2 review. Like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, it's been so much fun playing with this headset over the past week, and it's got me really excited for VR content coming soon. I mean, I'm absolutely buzzing to play Gran Turismo in this thing next week, and I just can't wait to play the upcoming shooter Firewall Ultra when it eventually drops later on this year. Now, I appreciate there was a lot to talk about in this video, so if you've made it this far, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you found some of the information I provided was useful. If you have any questions, anything I may have missed in the video, feel free to put your questions in the comments down below, and I'll do my very best to answer as many questions as I can. If you enjoyed the video and you found it useful, leave a cheeky little like, make sure you're subscribed for all my future PSVR 2 content, and as always, I'll see you all on the next one. Cheers.